Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWAS Thursday Night Football Week 17. Seattle on the road in Chicago here. As far as the Christmas Day NFL games, I lost the Steelers in over, but then I won the Ravens in under in the second game. So got swept in the first game, swept in the second game. Back and forth Christmas Day here. Hope you all had a great holiday. Let's talk Thursday Night Football. Welcome to the SWAS. Hey, get the sauce. All right, like I said, Seattle's on the road in Chicago for this one. The Bears are catching, it looks like mostly 4 across the board. I do see a couple 3.5 still out there if you look. Total sitting at 42.5. Let's take a look at the pie charts, and according to the data, as I'm sure you could probably imagine, action's coming in pretty heavily on the Seattle side. Over 75% of the tickets, over 75% of the money. As I always say, take this data with a grain of salt. So let's get into this matchup, and we'll start with the Seattle offense against the Chicago defense. And the Bears defense, I mean, they have just checked out on this side of the ball, unfortunately. It's looked pretty bad. On the season, they're 31st in yards per play, 16th in success rate, struggling against the pass now. I mean, early in the season, they were struggling against the run, but they were playing strong defense against the pass. Now they can't defend the pass either. The Bears defense can't do anything right, and they're matched up against a Seahawks offense that I guess I'll say they've been pretty consistent. That's a crazy word to use for Seattle, but pretty consistent in terms of moving the ball. They do have some interception problems, especially in the red zone at times. But in terms of moving the football, Seattle's pretty consistent. They're 13th in yards per play, 16th in success rate, 14th and 15th throwing the ball. So I mentioned how Chicago's defense has just checked out, and I wanted to show you just how bad it's been in their first 9 games. Now, they've always been bad against the run. I'm showing their overall defensive numbers and their pass defense numbers. We don't need to show their run defense numbers because it's been bad pretty much this whole season. But if you look at their first 9 games, they were playing great defense against the pass. Through the first 9 games of the season, they were allowing just 18.6 points per game, just 208.4 passing yards allowed per game, under 7 yards per attempt, an average opponent pass rating of 75.8. Those are solid numbers against the pass here. So this Bears defense was looking great against the pass through the first 9 games. It's fallen off a cliff, though. In their last 6 games, they can't stop anybody from running the ball, throwing the ball. They can't stop anything. I mean, they're allowing 29.2 points per game in their last 6. 7 yards per play is insanely bad. Over 53% success rate. And specifically, look at their numbers against the pass. Remember, this was the strength of the defense early on in the season. The last 6 games, they're allowing 9.3 yards per attempt, over 286 passing yards per game, success rate per dropback over 59%, and a 111.5 passer rating. So they can't defend the pass anymore either. And this is a Seahawks passing attack that's taken advantage of its opportunities. What I mean by that, when they play the lesser defenses, they tend to not have problems throwing the ball. They've played 8 games this year against defenses ranked number 16 or lower. So basically bottom half defenses. In those 8 games, they're averaging over 274 passing yards per game, 8.1 yards per attempt, a 99.1 passer rating, success rate per dropback at 56%. So Geno Smith tends to play well when he sees bad defenses. And I think we can all agree that this Bears defense, especially the way they're playing right now, is most definitely a bad defense. Now, I will say it's not the best matchup for Geno Smith on paper. The Bears defense 5th in zone coverage frequency, 2nd in cover 3 frequency, 6th in single high safety frequency. Geno Smith has great numbers against zone coverage. 4th in completion percentage, 18th in yards per attempt, 13th in passer rating, 10th in turnover-worthy throw rate. Problem is, a lot of that damage comes against cover 2. 2 high safety looks. That's not what Chicago's been doing. His numbers against cover 3 aren't nearly as nice looking. 17th, 24th, 6th, and 24th. And against single high safety looks, we're talking about 35th in turnover-worthy throw rate. So the Geno Smith interception problems, they've come against single high safety looks. And another thing that worries me for Geno Smith here is the Chicago pass rush. They're 7th in pressure rate, 13th in pass rush grade, 20th in adjusted sack rate. Seattle has struggled in pass protection for most of the season, although we do have to cut them a little bit of slack. They played most of the season without their star right tackle, Abraham Lucas, who's obviously healthy now. So they were missing probably the most important piece of the offensive line in terms of pass protection for a lot of the season. They're completely healthy at this point. But still, the Bears pass rush is a concern here, especially when you look at Geno Smith's passer rating when pressured. 54. 37th in the NFL. Geno Smith has struggled when pressured this year, and the Bears pass rush, I mean, that's the strength of their defense. That's concerning. That being said, I mean, this Bears pass rush really hasn't looked quite the same. In weeks 1 through 10, they were 11th in the NFL in time to pressure. They're 30th since week 11. In fact, you can probably point at this and say this is the main reason the Bears pass defense has fallen off a cliff. I'm sure there are other reasons, but the pass rush stopped getting home. They're 30th in time to pressure since week 11. That's pretty much exactly the time where we saw this Bears pass defense fall off. So this Bears pass rush has great numbers on the year. I'm not sure how effective it is right now, and they are still missing Billings at defensive tackle. Looks like Javon Dexter may return. He's missed the last couple games, so there's something. He's more of a run-stopping piece, but I mean, there's something if you're trying to bet Chicago. But as a whole, I mean, the Bears pass rush hasn't looked quite the same. They should be able to make Geno Smith uncomfortable here and there, but as a whole, this Bears defense just looks so bad that I think Geno Smith's going to be fine. He is much more reliable on the road, as I'm sure you know if you've been betting the Seahawks for multiple years. Geno Smith much better on the road. So, I mean, there's just not much to like about this Bears defense right now. So I'm sure Geno Smith will be fine, even though they do run a lot of cover 3 and single high safety looks, which isn't really his forte. And also, I mean, who's to say Seattle's not just going to run the ball in this game? Seattle's been running the ball a little bit in their last 4 games, 4.8 yards per carry, over 40% success rate per rush. Now, this isn't the Baltimore Ravens, but they are running the ball. I mean, those are pretty efficient looking rushing numbers there in their last 4 games. Now, I know Kenneth Walker is out. He's been confirmed out. He's not going to play in this game. That being said, Charbonnet's been the much more efficient rusher as of late. In the last 4 games, Charbonnet's got 34 carries, 215 yards, over 6.3 yards per carry. So Charbonnet's actually looked a little bit better than Kenneth Walker, probably because he's been banged up. So Kenneth Walker being out doesn't exactly shake my faith in the Seahawks run game right now. Keep in mind, we are talking about the Bears defense here, and like I said before, they've been struggling to stop the run all season. Hasn't changed lately. In their last 4 games, they're allowing over 4.6 yards per carry, over 47% success rate per rush, almost 147 rushing yards per game. They can't stop anybody on the ground. So even without Kenneth Walker, I mean, the Seahawks offensive line is completely healthy. They should have no problems handing the ball off to Charbonnet and having some sort of a run game as well. So as a whole, the Seahawks offense should be fine. Like I said, this Bears defense seems to have checked out. And since they fired Eberflus, it honestly looks worse. I can't trust this Bears defense at all. So Seattle should definitely score points in this game. So after I recorded this, I saw Prop Beaver post in the Discord that he's on Charbonnet's overs, rushing and receiving. So it kind of confirms what I was thinking, that the Seahawks run game should be fine here. Even without Kenneth Walker, the Bears run defense is that bad. But just wanted to include that Prop Beavers on Charbonnet's overs. But what about the matchup on the other side? We got the Bears offense against the Seahawks defense. On paper, as I'm sure you can see in this graphic, Seattle definitely has the edge on this side. 12th in yards per play allowed, 17th in success rate. The Bears offense 31st and 26th. And if you plan on betting the Bears in this game, I have some terrible news for you. So not only has this Bears offensive line been pretty awful pretty much this entire season, but they just lost 2 more pieces. Ryan Bates has been out. That's an injury they've been dealing with for most of the year. Tevin Jenkins and Braxton Jones both got hurt last week. So the Bears are now missing the entire left side of their offensive line. And this is new. Both these guys started the game last week. So this Bears offensive line, which is already terrible, is now in complete shambles. And this is a Seattle defensive front who's not only completely healthy, but they've been rock solid against the run for a while now. In their last 5 games, they're allowing 4.3 yards per carry, just 97 rushing yards per game, success rate per rush down close to 34%. So on one side, you've got the Seahawks defensive front, completely healthy, and they've been great against the run. On the other side, you got the Bears rushing attack, missing the entire left side of the offensive line, and they haven't been able to consistently run the ball all year. Safe to say the Bears are going to have trouble running the ball in this game. But before you go and hammer Seattle -4 in this one, we do have to take note that this is Caleb Williams at home in Chicago. Say what you want about Caleb Williams. There's been a lot of bad this year, but you cannot deny that this kid, for whatever reason, is good as hell at home. In his home games this year, completing over 66% of his passes, 7 yards per attempt, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, and an average passer rating of 99.1. He's got a 99 passer rating in his home games. For whatever reason, at Soldier Field, this kid slings it. And if I'm being honest, I really don't know what I think about the Seahawks secondary right now. I really don't know what I think about the Seahawks pass defense. In their last 2 games, I mean, Green Bay and Minnesota, 63.6% success rate per dropback, an average opponent pass rating of 118. 2 bad games, but they only allowed 237 passing yards per game in those 2. And if you look at the previous 5 games before that, the passing numbers look great. I mean, their defensive numbers against the pass look great, I should say. 6.4 yards per attempt, an average opponent passer rating under 80, but still the success rate, 50.6%. For whatever reason, the Seattle defense just cannot get off the field when their opponent drops back to pass. So I actually don't like that. On the road in Chicago, where Caleb Williams has played really well this year. Also, Seattle's been running a ton of 2 high safety looks. Over 59% of their defensive snaps are 2 high safeties, 3rd most in the NFL since week 10. The reason I'm bringing this up is Caleb Williams is actually 15th in the NFL in pass rating against 2 high safeties, 8th in turnover-worthy throw rate. He's 36th in completion percentage, 31st in yards per attempt, but look at the touchdown to interception ratio here. 14 touchdowns, 1 interception against 2 high safeties. He's really not bad against these coverages. So it's actually starting to look like this might be a decent matchup for Caleb Williams here. The problem is right here, the Seahawks pass rush. We talked about it before. The Bears offensive line, they're missing their entire left side. So part of me wants to say I could care less if this is a good matchup for Caleb Williams in terms of the coverages. How is he going to have time to throw in this game? The Seattle pass rush has been pretty good. It's been better in the second half of the season. Caleb Williams is going to be under pressure in this game. Now let's give him some credit. He doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't put the ball in harm's way under pressure, which is actually really admirable for a rookie. Just a 2.1% turnover-worthy play rate under pressure, 3rd best in the NFL this year. But what does he do under pressure? Look at the bottom left. 41st in pressure to sack rate. The kid takes sacks. So I would imagine Seattle's pass rush should have plenty of opportunities to get home in this one. Caleb Williams does have problems holding on to the football. As you can see here, he has a high pressure to sack rate. He takes sacks at a high rate. The entire left side of the offensive line is cooked for Chicago. Yeah, the Seahawks should be able to get to him. So where does that leave me in terms of placing a bet? Well, I can tell you the angle I feel most comfortable about is just fading the Bears defense because, like I said, since Eberflus has gotten fired, I mean, they seem to have checked out. This defense looks awful. It's not the best matchup for Geno Smith on paper, but like I said, Charbonnet should be able to run the ball a little bit. So I like the Seahawks to score points here. So I see a Seahawks team total over 22.5 on Bet Rivers. I'll take that. So before we go any further, give me the Seattle team total over. Obviously, I lean towards the Seahawks in terms of ATS. There's still some 3.5s. I'll take one of those, I guess. I'm a little worried about Caleb Williams at home. I do think he's going to be able to make some throws. Him and Keenan Allen seem to be starting to gel a little bit. So I don't know if I'm going to go with Seattle minus 3.5 or the total. Just take the over. As of right now, I'm undecided. But I like the Seahawks team total over, Seattle minus 3.5, or the full game over. It'll be something along those lines. I'll let you know on the live show what I decided to pull the trigger, but it'll be one of those 3, maybe 2 of those 3 bets there. Live show, 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll go through this game. We'll go through the NBA slate, maybe some college basketball. I'm not sure if there is any, but if there is, we'll go through it. If you're able to, there's 3 bowl games as well. So if you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. Hit me up in the Discord if you need me. Please remember to bet responsibly. Talk to you later.